The greatest American tragedy, the day of October 27th, 1962. In the heightening of the Cold War, tensions were rising to boiling levels as the Cuban Missile Crisis reached its peak. With one small mistake, the certain doom of the entire world felt inevitable, and doomsday came on the 27th. Little did the United States know, their greatest homeland tragedy would spell a new footing into the future as the decline of two world powers met the success of others. And it all started with the Bay of Pigs when missiles were discovered in Cuba.
When the news reached us Americans that there were literal missiles in Cuba, that's like 2, 3, maybe 40 miles away. That's crazy.
They could have gone to any city in America.
Well, when we heard what was going on, we were all so scared, and it wasn't very clear what was happening, but there were rumors that at any time the Russians might shoot us with a nuke.
There was no communication. It was really poor, and we were all worried about what's going to happen next.
The entire day was a blur. I mean, it was chaotic.
This has been a special report from CBS News.
Good afternoon. This is Alexander Braiman from CBS News on the scene in Miami, Florida. Today is October 27th, 1962, and it appears we've gotten word of a missile launch heading to the direction of the United States. It is unclear at the moment whether the missile is a test launch or a decoy. It is also unclear as to who fired the missile and who will take the blame. Amidst growing hopes for a negotiation between the United States and the USSR, a missile launch like this could spell disaster in the wake of growing peace between the two nations. Oh my gosh, look over there! Oh my gosh! Florida man, we gotta go, you see that? Oh my gosh, we gotta go!
Unbeknownst to the Americans, due to the naval blockade, a Russian submarine believed that there was war and fired a nuclear missile at Miami, Florida.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know what to think that day. It was just pandemonium. Doesn't matter where you are in the country, everyone was freaking out.
I remember hearing that 800,000 people had died and half the city of Miami had been destroyed, and it was just shocking to hear and to even fathom those numbers.
Man, you can't go in the streets anywhere in America without somebody being absolutely angry at the Russians. The American people wanted war.
As the U.S. prepared for war with Russia, we changed our funding priorities.
And instead of, this massive technological race, we got everything, all of our funds were diverted to defense and making sure that something like this would never happen again.
I mean, it made sense because we were attacked and we attacked them back, and we didn't know if there was going to be a war or not, so it made sense to start mobilizing. I mean, in fact, that people wanted war, so this is the only foregone conclusion.
I mean, this was the first attack on American soil ever.
With the threat of nuclear war, other countries looked for new ways to protect humanity.
The European Space Agency then started recolonization plans, and it was definitely a step in the right direction.
We dropped out of the space race, and so did the Soviets. The rest of the world decided that they needed to recolonize humanity elsewhere. I don't blame them, because who knew if we would be eradicated?
And as our boys left Vietnam pretty early on, in 63, maybe early 64, it really helped with our defenses. I mean, so many people were lost, so many soldiers in Florida that having our boys back in the U.S. really helped.
Well, of course, I think it's a good thing that the Vietnam War ended early and we just got our troops home, but it's not good that the troops had to come and defend our own nation, and it was due to a threat.
With the United States mobilizing for war, the countries of NATO became worried of all-out nuclear war. Prime Minister Harold Macmillan talks to President Kennedy saying that if the United States does not stop preparing for war, then Britain will leave NATO as well as the other countries. Kennedy did not heed the warning, thus Harold Macmillan leaves NATO as well as the other countries.
I think after NATO disbanded is when it started to become apparent that the US was not going to be able to fight a full-on nuclear war with the USSR, and we were going to have to pursue other options.
Kennedy wanted peace, but the American citizens would not have it.
But things changed with the leak of a very crucial document.
And then when the CIA released these documents, everybody was stunned. How could this have been an accident?
It was just Kennedy, but he had more support with the people, and it looked like it paid off because both him and Khrushchev came off with a new nuclear test ban treaty, which seemed to decrease in tension. And it worked.
Meanwhile, the ESA was continuing space exploration.
Back in the 70s, the Brits did it. They landed someone on the moon.
It's hard for me to even fathom the ESA landing humans on the moon, but when I heard about that, it was definitely a big step forward for our technology.
People are on the moon now. The possibilities were endless.
Good evening, everyone. I am the director of NASA, and I have been chosen to be the person that will deliver the opening remarks of this fine celebration that we have tonight. I would just like to say, if it weren't for all of us banding together way back when during that fateful day of Miami, USA being blown up, we would never be here today. Thanks to the leadership of the ESA and the development and research from all of you guys, we are now able to say that part of our race, part of the human race, now exists on otherworldly planets that are far distant from this planet. This is an achievement that is unparamount to anything else that we've ever done in this world, and it wouldn't be for the unity that we all have. Tonight is a day we should be proud of. Thank you for your time. Never stop developing. We shall reach out to greater distances. Thank you. I mean, after the Cold War ending in the early 90s, it was really interesting to see what happened, and I mean, it was awesome. The ESA managed to colonize the moon. NASA came back after the end of the Cold War, and they partnered with ESA after seeing that recolonization was possible. And now here we are, knowing that recolonization is possible. We can expand our center of influence as the human race. And if we were to be eradicated, we'd be fine because we have the human population elsewhere. It's amazing.
And this recolonization by the ESA, it was a big success.
Propaganda was needed to convince people to colonize space.
However, during the recolonization efforts, tragedy struck the United States.
And then 9/11 came around, and that was like the second big attack on America.
Man, when the country was bombed again in 9/11, I just PTSD. People were all over in the streets screaming, social media was blowing up, news was blowing up. It was just like a repeat. I was very happy to see that President Bush take a stand and make WATO, which just is a dedicated organization to destroying terrorism, to prevent more lives from being lost in this world.
After 9/11, when the US was attacked once again, it really became clear to me that the government was going to have to do something to stop the attacks against US citizens, because we can't live in fear.
And after 9/11, when Bush created WATO, the World Anti-Terrorist Organization, I do believe it's called, I was really happy. I was thrilled because now we actually had a solution to getting rid of terrorism.
I was hesitant at first about WATO because of the fact that NATO hadn't worked, but all the same countries joined, and I think that the first priority being the safety of citizens really gave it an edge.
Shifting back to space, the ESA is reaching new heights.
Right now, we're trying to colonize Titan, which is one of Saturn's moons.
With people flying towards that planet right now that are set to reach there by 2023, and if they do, then we have also colonized further reached planets.
And I think if that people in the ESA are successful at this endeavor, then there's really no limit to human technology and what we're going to be able to do for the future.